Hi there, welcome back to Super Sunday Matchday. We're going to focus on Newcastle now, who consolidated their position in the top four with this emphatic 4-0 win over Aston Villa at St James's Park. I'm delighted to say that the Athletic's George Caulkin joins us now. Good morning to you, George. You all right?
George. Well, consolidated their position in fourth place. That's extraordinary. I'm very happy if you want to say that again.
OK, we'll repeat it. Consolidated their position in the top four. Look, they do go from strength to strength in all seriousness. It was another very impressive all-round performance as well.
It really was. They're finding a way, and that's the thing. It's week after week. They're improving. You know, one of the things that I think doesn't get talked about a lot in the kind of context of Newcastle and the money they've spent is that 6 of those players yesterday were at the club before the takeover, before Eddie Howe arrived, and the transformation in their form has been extraordinary. Yeah, I mean, it was a tricky first half yesterday against Aston Villa. You wondered if this might be the game where they came unstuck, but they find a way through, and by the end, it was dominant and very comfortable.
Quite the audition as well for Callum Wilson, wasn't it? I mean, you know, he told us midweek that he should be in Gareth Southgate's squad for Qatar, and that was an impressive performance in front of Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Eddie Howe talked about it being outrageous to be asked a question about the Champions League, but there's this whole theme around the club at the moment. Gareth Southgate was there. It's not often that the England manager has had reason to come to St James's Park recently. The Brazil manager was there. Miggy Almiron smashes in another screamer. And yeah, Wilson has been a quality player for a long time. The issue with him has been fitness, but he's banging form, 6 goals this season. And I think only Harry Kane surpasses him in terms of goals per minute this season. There's always a good case, I think, to take somebody who's banging form to a World Cup, and Wilson's up there. He's been a quality centre forward for a long time. He troubles centre halves. When he's fit, he can be unplayable. And yeah, brilliant to see. In
your eyes, second on that plane to Kane then?
Well, I think he should be there. I mean, I do think he should be there. He deserves it. And as I say, yes, banging form. There are places up for grabs from how I look at it. And Newcastle are banging form. Wilson's banging form. Why not?
George, you mentioned there that 6 of those players were there before the takeover and how they've transformed their form. I mean, none more so than Miguel Almiron. 6 goals in his last 6 Premier League games. Did you see that coming? How much credit should go to Eddie Howe, and maybe how much credit should go to Jack Grealish as well?
Well, I mean, it's been an astonishing story, but then there are others, aren't there? I mean, you look at Joelinton, for example. A year ago he was a kind of a joke centre half. He was the biggest waste of money in Newcastle's history, and now he's probably the biggest transformation in form and fortune that the club's ever seen. He is one of the first names on the team sheet. The same goes for Almiron. It was a position that Newcastle were looking to strengthen this summer. Almiron has risen to the challenge. He had a great pre-season and he's carried it through. And yes, I mean, huge credit has to go to him, of course, but it's this is an Eddie Howe story. A lot of this is down to Eddie Howe, the way that he has got more out of players like Joelinton, like Almiron, Sean Longstaff in front of Gareth Southgate yesterday. He is the engine of this team at the moment. I mean, that is one of the things, as I say, it doesn't get talked about enough, but the coaching of these players to become better and deliver their potential is as much about Newcastle's story as anything else.
George, you're a fan. You've written about the club for a long time. You've written about them particularly through the difficult moments as well, Mike Ashley, etc. And when the new ownership took over last year, there was a lot of triumphalism about where they wanted to be. In your opinion, are they ahead of schedule?
They're completely ahead of schedule. I mean, they are. I mean, they have to be. Except, I mean, and there is, as I say, there's this sort of strange relationship between reality and belief. Outrageous, Eddie Howe asked about the Champions League, but they're there and they're there on merit. And it's been a very grounded sort of revolution. Yes, they've spent a lot of money, but the money that they've spent, I mean, Dan Burn was at left back yesterday. Nick Pope was signed from relegated Burnley for a down payment of £3 million. Even someone like Kieran Trippier, who I think is probably playing his best football of his career, was available, and Newcastle got him. And I think it's a very grounded kind of revolution and very believable. Except that when you go to the match, every single match feels like a new discovery. And you've got kind of Newcastle fans on the bus in yesterday, Newcastle fans saying, I think we'll win today, but I wish I hadn't said that out loud. You almost have that conditioning still to expect the worst. And then when something good happens, it feels like this explosion of joy. It's a lovely feeling around the club. This is the bit that is really enjoyable. At some point, people will start making judgments, and that'll be a bit sad in some ways. But no, they're there where they are on merit.
George, just very quickly, in your opinion, what should they do in the January transfer window if they want to stay in the top four? What do you expect to be writing about? What do you think Dharmesh should be talking about on here? What players do you need in what positions to stay there?
Well, I think if I can slightly widen that out, one of the really encouraging things is that you just know for a fact that in 6 months' time, in a year's time, Newcastle will be stronger in all areas of the club. That's been one of the guiding sort of aspects about the club since the takeover. You know that they're going to improve. In the past, you talked about the Mike Ashley years. The year they finished fifth, the season they finished fifth, which was a great achievement, they only went out and bought one senior player, and they were completely and utterly ill-equipped for Europe the following season, and they really struggled. You know this time that if there's an opportunity, they will take it and they will strengthen. And I think that's the exciting thing. I think January comes around and they're in a good position. They will look to strengthen. It's not going to be an easy window for them. They are saying internally that they're sort of pushing against FFP now. I think fans will probably smile because people have been saying that from day one, and they've found a way to strengthen and spend money. But they'll get better. That's the exciting thing. And there is this huge drive inside the club, whether it's Eddie Howe, whether it's the ownership, that they will get better.
OK, just finally then, I know you were giddy at the top, so what is realistic then? What is realistic? Do you think, they're in the top four? Can they hold on to it?
Well, everybody is recalibrating. I think week after week, you're kind of recalibrating your expectations. I have to be honest, I don't want to be the person that says, oh, yeah, they can finish in the top four, because, as I say, it's just too much fun at the moment, going to the games, watching the team win, watching the team compete, watching the team have a go. I don't want to be the person that puts Eddie Howe and the team under pressure. I just want to, I think if they ended up finishing this season 8th or 7th, 6th, you would have to look at it, take a step back to see where they were a year ago and say that's been a success. But they're proving themselves week in, week out, and the drive internally is very strong. So let's see where it can take them.
OK, brilliant stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy your Sunday, George.
Cheers, George.
Cheers.